Today's show, what has impressed us the most about Dereck Lively so far early in his rookie campaign? We'll talk about that and things that have encouraged us and things that have maybe discouraged us about the Dallas Mavericks so far on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Mavs your first listen today, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know what has impressed you about Dereck Lively so far this season. Also, let us know if you're going to the Rangers parade. It's today if you're listening to this on Friday, or tomorrow if you're listening to this on Thursday. Let us know. I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to head over there and see what's up with the Rangers parade. Congrats to the Rangers. Go listen to Locked On Rangers. Bryce had an incredible time. He's just euphoric. It's one of those podcasts where, like, I don't know if he knew what he said the whole time, but he said good stuff throughout the whole episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnNBA for a free first deposit match up to $100. And joining me, weekly co-host from Bally Sports. What you got for me, Dana Larson?
Yeah, we got to start with congratulations to the Rangers, right?
Amazing.
Unbelievable. The last parade I was at was, of course, 2011 for the Dallas Mavericks. I was 9 months pregnant. I now have a 12-year-old. So it is time that we celebrate another championship in this city, right? Amazing. What a cool experience last night was.
The Dallas championship drought was a middle schooler. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that says a lot, doesn't it? That says a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely. So incredible stuff. Again, check out Locked On Rangers. Check out all the great stuff that is coming out of that show. Man, amazing. On today's show, though, we're going to talk about things that we're encouraged by with the Mavericks so far. 4-0 start. Lots of stuff to be encouraged by, but there's still some things we're discouraged by, or things that we're monitoring or watching or maybe concerned by. We'll talk about that. But Dana, I want to start here. Dereck Lively has really impressed so far. In the game the other night against the Bulls, he had I thought a really, really good game where he was so impactful in a way that not a lot of people saw. He had 7 points, 13 boards, 6 assists, only 3 fouls against Vooch, which was something we were really watching, because I thought this game against Nikola Vucevic was a precursor to how he may defend Jokic. Now, Jokic is a completely different animal, completely different level, but similar body type, similar, and the way that they kind of want to go about playing. And so I was encouraged by that play, and I've just been encouraged by the playmaking, the passing, and a lot of things we've seen from Dereck Lively so far.
Yeah, he's now gone up against Slender Man and He-Man. you got 7'4", 210, and then you got 6'10", 260 or whatever it is with Vooch last night. And even Andre Drummond, that's just another kind of traditional big that we have seen. And so he's now seen it all in 4 games, truly. And then the matchup, of course, with Brooklyn, where it was nothing but wings, and it was a totally different kind of game, and you didn't see him play quite as much, which was a lesson in and of itself. But speaking of, young kids, I just, and if you had to tell me he was 19, I wouldn't believe you the way he has played. And the only reason I believe you is because his mom is always with him. And if I had a teenager, I'd be around my kid all the time too, if they were in the NBA. And she's amazing. And she's keeping a close eye very smartly on her son. And she knows a lot about basketball. So I'm sure she's offering him an awful lot too.
I asked that last night because Dereck Lively was on he's on the podium doing his presser, and his mom walked in and sat right behind me. And I remember from Skin's interview on Bally's that he said, my mom will give me notes, or I'll give Dereck Lively notes between games, because she played. She's a college player. She's 6'4". I don't know if you ever stood next to her. No,
I haven't.
She's very tall. She's like almost taller than me.
I'm not surprised. Yes.
Yeah. And so it was like nobody was asking a question. It's one of those like, all right, you can throw out anything now because there's nobody like jonesing to try and ask a question or something. And I was like, hey, Dereck, from last game where you struggled with fouls to this game, did your mom give you any notes? And I just like pointed to his mom behind, and he was like, yeah, she told me some stuff that I can't repeat. And and then she told me I got to move my feet more, and she always gives me good notes. And, he gave the great answer.
Yes.
But yeah, she was giving him notes game to game.
Well, and what she's doing is working, because I think it was with regards to the discipline that he's going to continue to need to play with to stay out of foul trouble. And you pointed out only 3 fouls in that game against the Bulls, and that was just massive. That's why he got to play 33 minutes. And when he is as significant as he is shown to be, you want him out there longer. In the Spurs game, he played 30 minutes. He had the unbelievable debut double-double and was a plus 20 in that game. When he played 33 minutes against the Bulls, he was a plus 15. And he had a varied stat line, the 7 points, the 13 rebounds, the 6 assists, which, by the way, only the second rookie in franchise history to have 6 or more assists as a center. So he's doing things. We're learning about his game. He's doing things that I don't even think he did in college that are already coming to him here at the NBA level. He's getting great coaching, obviously. Those individual workouts that he has with the bigs in practice, where they're working a lot on those moments where you're going to have to be a release valve and you need to know where the open shooters are. And we saw all of that play out so beautifully last night, because it was a game that they were making life really difficult for Luka. And you're going to see that a lot, because a lot of teams are going to try that strategy against the Mavs.
Oh yeah, the what they did yesterday. If you didn't listen to last night's show, they had such a great game plan on Luka. It was stay up tight with him, be physical. They got away with a bunch of bump fouls that Luka was not happy with. But if you're going to get away with those, you just do it as much as possible. Bump him, and then anytime Luka is about to make a play, drive, anything, send help. They send help every time. And then in like the fourth quarter, in the second half, they were sending doubles and traps on every turn. It was like he had to get the ball out of his hands. And so when you do that, you've got to have, like you said, the release valve. And it was Dereck Lively last night, and he was making the right play, kicking out, finding shooters. I mean, his 6 assists for a center, like you said, there's not many. I think I tweeted this last night. The amount of centers in Mavs history that have had like 13 rebounds and 6 assists. Roy Tarpley, DeAndre Jordan did it once. Christian Wood did it once. And now Dereck Lively. That's it. Those are all the centers that have done that. The Mavericks haven't had one of these playmaking type centers, or at least can make the right pass like that. And that's an area of his game that I just didn't expect to be as prevalent as it is so far. But he's making such an impact in that. And then you mentioned his plus minus. I went to cleaning the glass, and I looked at the difference between the Mavericks' different like defense when he's on the court and off the court. Mavs are 7.6 points per 100 possessions better defensively when he's on the court. And you can see that, right? That passes the eye test with the Mavericks being better when he's on the court. Again, really small sample size. I try not to go too much into if anybody shows you lineup data right now, 4 games in the season, like, all right, maybe let's wait on that. Just like a little bit, but he's making an impact in a bunch of different ways.
He is, and he's making you feel better about the way in which they went about getting this draft pick, right? Wow. I mean, it was not fun to endure the losses at the end of the year and go through the process that they were having to go through, but to end up with a guy like this, who they didn't even know could do this quickly, I don't think, because they worked so hard in the offseason to continue to try to maybe get in other center type guys. And then now can go, maybe we don't need it. Maybe we actually have our guy. And for him, I think at this point to be moving even quicker than they could have imagined. And I had a just kind of a happenstance meeting with Tyson Chandler this weekend at a volleyball tournament of all things. And it was a great place to chat with him a little bit about Dereck Lively too. And he was so happy for this kid. And he was saying, this is way faster than, even I could have imagined. And he said, it is like looking in a mirror. He's just blown away by the similarities between him and Dereck Lively. And he just has, felt so encouraged by the fact that he is moving so quickly. And he's just someone that's soaking in a lot and now giving them, a lot of faith in what they have and Luka trust. Right. And that's a huge thing.
Absolutely. That's wild to hear from Tyson Chandler, who's won a defensive player of the year, like has been one of the top defensive centers in the league, to see that, to see his development, to see him go on. I was on Subtext, our subscription site where you can get text straight to your phone. And I do like a watch back where I'll watch back a quarter and I'll point out film. I'll point out like different things in the game. And it was how little mistakes Dereck Lively made stood out to me when I was going through that. When I was going through the fourth quarter, I was like, he just doesn't make mistakes. He makes the right play at every move. You can see him thinking through stuff, and he'll take his time on some things. Like any of his post-ups, they're not really rushed because he's like, all right, I want to get this right. I want to do this right. But then also the passes are right on the money and quickly when they need to get it out. And so the maturity, like you said, the decision-making, the maturity has been really impressive. And it's good to hear Tyson's impressed by it too, which is
well, and speaking of maturity, because I said, oh, he's like mature beyond his years. And he's like, he's not really that mature, like he's a kid. He wanted me to, make sure that I understood that he's still goofy and silly and a teenager and all that stuff. But obviously the play is kind of light years ahead, and the game has slowed down for him, as you were talking about just now, so quickly. But maybe it's because he really, really understands his role, and he really understands his strengths and the kind of player he is. He's not trying to do too much. He knows what he does well. He's even happy to describe it as doing the dirty work. And that he loves that. He understands that he's out there to clean up messes or to be, the backstop and be the vocal guy. He gets it, and he's comfortable with that. And so I think that's what's, slowed the game down for him a little bit quicker.
Absolutely. And so coming up, let's talk about some things that we've been encouraged by. We've been encouraged a lot by Dereck Lively, but what else from the Dallas Mavericks have we been encouraged by in their 4-0 start? We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. They are the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and it's just you against the numbers. You don't have to battle against a bunch of guys that are sitting in their basement with an algorithm or sitting in there, like have all this experience behind them. It's just you versus the projections. All you have to do is go to Prize Picks. So right now, we're recording this before the Thursday night game. So, for example, Joel Embiid against the Raptors, 28.5 points. I'm going to go more on Joel Embiid there. Tyrese Maxey, he's been killing it. I think he's going to have an off game. There's got to be an off shooting game. He's been shooting the lights out. So I'm going to go less on him. Pascal Siakam, 19.5 points. Give me more on that. If I put down $20, I can win 100 on that one. You can try all kinds of different stuff. And Prize Picks will give you a reboot policy. So let's say I put that in before the game started and then Pascal Siakam is out that game. You can get one of those players back. So for football and basketball games, if you have a player that exits the game in the first half, doesn't return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy like that. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, one word, LockedOnNBA, for a first deposit match up to $100.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Again, if you want to support the show, get text straight from me, get the watch back film reviews, that kind of thing. Subscribe to our subtext, click the link in the description, or text the number. All right, Data. Let's talk about some things we're encouraged by. We talked about Dereck Lively. That was probably number one on my list. Yeah. And so, all right, let's talk about him up front. Another thing that I'm encouraged by is the Mavericks finding a way to win a game that Luka didn't score efficiently in. Against the Bulls, he went 5 of 16 from the field. They played that really great defense against him. He had 6 turnovers, too, which stood out to me. Last season, how many games do you think the Mavericks won when Luka scored between 1 and 19 points?
Single digits?
Home, I was going to say, at home, play along. How many games do you think the Mavs won? 0. 0 and 4 last year. There was only 4 games that Luka scored between 1 and 19 points, which is wild to think about. But they never won when Luka scored less than basically 20 points in a game last year. And so for them to already have done that is already a step forward with this group. And without Kyrie, too, I think they're really taking a step forward as a group collectively.
Oh, couldn't agree with you more. And I think you're right, because it was a game, there was no Kyrie. And so maybe that leads to one of the things that's so encouraging to me, too. And that is the addition of Grant Williams, because you have a guy of his caliber that is there to do so much for you now. I mean, he is fitting he's checking so many boxes, right, of things that they absolutely needed when they were going to look for a player like him. There's a guy who can drain 7 threes, so he can pick up the scoring for Luka, right? But that's not the only thing that he brings. He brings so much. He's really showing to be the complete package out there right now. And for them to know that they identified a need, identified a player, got that player, and now for him, this was a great opportunity for him. An elevated role. He's not a role player on a great team. He is now an everyday starter who is looking really to be somebody they count on as a featured scorer and honestly the defensive leader, really, until maybe Dereck Lively just, blossoms even more and maybe he really becomes the anchor. But that's a lot for Grant Williams. And he looks really ready. He looks really ready.
Oh, you could just tell from Jump Street that he was ready to go, like just in what he was saying and how he was ready for this opportunity, ready to step up. I find it funny after games when he's talking about some of the young players, like he was talking about Lively last night. He goes, yeah, the youth on our team, like, dude, you're 24 years old. Like you're part of the youth too. Like you and Luka still are part of the youth on this team a little, but he carries himself like a vet. He is a vet. Grant Williams is going to be one of my things too. And it was just Grant Williams getting up shots was the thing I was encouraged by, because we thought that, we knew he would shoot well. He's a great shooter, but this season so far, he's taken 7.3 threes a game, shooting 55%. Last season on the Celtics, he took 3.5 threes a game. So he's up like 4 threes a game, basically doubling. Year before that, it was 3.5 as well on that. Grant Williams has already taken 8 or more threes in 3 other 4 games. Last season, he played the whole year for the Celtics. He took more than 8 threes twice. The year before that, he took more than 8 threes in a game once. So, like, he's already surpassed the amount of times he's taken volume threes, or like 8 or more threes in a game, than he did the last 2 seasons combined with the Celtics. So, like, this bigger role, it's real. He's shooting really well. Can't sustain 55%, I don't think. But yeah, he's been awesome in this elevator role.
And in the preseason, I remember him kind of talking about his frustrations because his shot wasn't exactly falling just yet. And he may have been putting pressure on himself to really, be making a good first impression. So for him to come out now when it matters, because now these are the games that matter, for him to shoot that shot so smooth too. He's always, he makes it look so easy. He doesn't ever look under stress out there. And I just think you point out his age. And the thing I keep coming back to is he played on a team that had so many great players, that had so many, great vets, and they played deep. They played in pressure situations. He's just already been there, done that with so much. So even at 24, he's like, a grizzled veteran in terms of what he's seen. And we know he's smart. We know he's really, really smart. So he's going to fit so well with Luka because they're both always thinking the game. They're both always that one step ahead.
There was a play last night. Again, I was doing the film breakdown on Subtext, and he was in the corner. It was late in the clock, and there was a defender coming at him, and he only had a split second to get his shot off. And normally, when you catch a shot, I'm gonna get a little shot nerdy. So everybody stick with me here for a second. Normally, when you get a shot and you're on the 3-point line, you normally see guys catch the ball and kind of dip. The ball goes like below your waist, kind of, and then you come up, and then you come up with your form, and then you go for it. Instead, what Grant did, he caught it at his chest. And he didn't dip at all, and he just lifted the ball above his head and shot it. Like, didn't do the dip, and because he didn't have that much time to get the shot off. And like, that's just such a high level thing where it's him taking the next step and going that extra level to be that much more of an elite shooter. And he hit the shot. It was a fourth quarter shot. They needed it, and hit that 3. Man, like, just seeing that, I was like, oh man, like, he's not kidding around.
No,
he's ready to take that next step.
Not kidding around with. He had some big rebounds late.
Yeah,
big steal. So I mean, he's playing high intensity on both ends of the court.
Last thing on Grant Williams, I said that Dereck Lively, the Mavericks are better on defense when he's on the court. What was it, 7.6 points per 100 possessions? With Grant Williams on the court versus off the court, they're 15.8 points per 100 possessions better on defense. I mean, so the eye test is saying he's good on defense. The numbers are saying they're great when he's on the court, and when he's off the court, they've been struggling. And so maybe that's something that we'll have to monitor going forward. But yeah, he's been awesome. He's been the catalyst for them on defense. Jason Kidd even said he's the voice that we needed, which they so desperately needed last year.
Absolutely. Luka was quick to point him out without even being asked about him after the Memphis win.
Yeah.
And gave him all the credit for being the difference right now and why this thing is headed in this direction at 4-0. And for Luka to do that, he's made a big impression.
Yeah, Luka doesn't call people out that often, like on his own, unless they're sitting next to him. Which was Grant sitting next to him during that presser? That was one of the more fun ones. We need more. We need more pressers with Luka sitting next to somebody, Grant or whoever, to get that personality out of him.
True.
But yeah, so that's the things we've been encouraged by. Coming up, there's a few things. There are a couple things that I'm discouraged by. So let's talk about that. Injuries kind of mounting up. Luka's minutes. What's going on with Omax? I got more stuff. Dana will share some. Talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. Hopefully, you took advantage of that through the Rangers run. If you didn't, I guess you can put some on the Mavericks, put some on the Cowboys, put some on the Stars. It's the sports equinox. We're still continuing with that going forward. Also, I want to share this. This is still true. Luka is tied with Nikola Jokic for lowest MVP odds or highest MVP odds, I guess. He's plus 400 to win the MVP. Jokic plus 400. Tatum is plus 700. Giannis and Embiid are plus 900. That's still the same today on Thursday as I'm recording this. So you can check that out as well and see what's available for you on FanDuel. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season, NBA season in full swing. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Dana, we've been encouraged. We're feeling good. The vibes are almost immaculate. They're feeling great. Let's talk about some things that we're concerned about or discouraged by. I'll let you go first. What's something that you're looking at with the Mavericks? Say, I'm discouraged by this or concerned.
This is pretty hard, honestly. I mean, they're 4-0 and things feel really good. And we've just listed a lot of good things, including we didn't even get to like Derrick Jones Jr., who's just been a revelation here these last couple of games. And Tim Hardaway Jr., who's been as consistent as anyone. And that could have gone badly the way it felt going into the season. So there's a lot of really good things that are encouraging. Discouraging, maybe, I would just have to start with the Kyrie injury. That's just one that you get. We don't know. It's been hard too. There's been very little information that's been made public about what he's dealing with, how it happened, if it's more of a nagging thing or being called day to day. But sometimes foot issues can really turn into other things. And, before we know it, you just feel like he's missed back-to-back games. All of a sudden, what if it's a month? We want to be careful, right? And a couple of games can quickly turn into a couple of weeks to make sure he's right and all that sort of thing. So to me, that's discouraging. All we really wanted was for Luka and for Kyrie to have a lot of time together and to really hone that chemistry. And we saw it in San Antonio. It was good. They were making sweet music together right at the end of that game. And that was pretty exciting. It felt like they'd worked on things in training camp and in the preseason, and they were going to bring those things out together and prove that they could do it. And now so quickly, we're in the same scenario that we were before.
Absolutely. This was one of mine, full stop. Kyrie's injury, will he be ready by Friday? Like, we don't know, right? We haven't had information. There was no practice on Thursday, so we didn't really get an update like that. It's a left foot sprain is what they're calling it. Now, he dealt with right foot injuries at the end of last season, so it's a different foot now. So now we're talking about feet with Kyrie and not just one foot situation, which is not great either to think about. So I'm concerned about that. But then your point of now we're back to almost square one of they haven't had time together. We were excited for the whole training camp, the whole preseason, the whole beginning of the season. And now they played 5 minutes together in the preseason. They've played 2 games in the regular season. And now I don't know how long this injury will last for Kyrie. And so, yeah, not getting that time together, because to me, this whole season was based upon, I don't think they were going to win the title. And so for me, it's what are Luka and Kyrie? Can we figure out what that duo is? Can we figure out which role players are going to be like title ready in a year or two, right? Like let's figure that out for this Mavericks team. But first, it's figure out Luka and Kyrie. And so if they don't figure out what that is this season, then like, all right, you got a different question to answer by the end of the year. And so, this is one that is concerning to me, but I don't know how bad the injury is. So I don't know how much to be concerned by it or not.
And I don't even know if Kyrie was right to begin with, quite honestly, because it felt like it was a really long off season. And he came back and wanted to take it slow. We heard him talk about that. And then his shooting percentage, especially from three, shooting 16% from three seemed off. Something was wrong there. And he said after the second game, which he was against the Brooklyn Nets that night, and he said, I'm feeling all of my 13 years. And he thought, I wonder, is that even more than just something with the foot or whatever? You know, you start to feel it. You do, right? At that point.
Me and him are the same age. And so I don't know if we can be talking about like being old and having injuries yet, right? Like I'm not ready to say that yet.
Go there. That's true. I know, truly. But I think that's my only concern is obviously that we got to get him back and get him right.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing to be a little discouraged by. The Mavericks winning without him is probably another encouraging thing. I know I'm not playing the game right, but that's another thing to be encouraged by to win.
The rules, Nick.
Yeah, I did make the rules. Yeah, that's right. It's my game. I can do whatever I want. But another thing I was going to say earlier about being encouraged by, the Mavs are also, they're winning the possessions without Luka on the court. The Mavericks are plus 2.8 net rating, so that's the points per 100 possessions on offense and defense. So they're winning those possessions without Luka. It's like 91 possessions so far without Luka. So again, really small sample size. 33 of them are without Kyrie. They've still won the possessions without Luka and Kyrie. So I guess that's kind of encouraging, but still really small sample size. Another thing I'm discouraged by is Luka had to play 40 minutes against Memphis and Chicago. Without Kyrie, if Kyrie's going to be out sometime, you've got to really manage his minutes. And I wonder if some of the minute stuff was wearing on him because he did not shoot the ball well like we saw. We just had Follow on the other day, and he was like, man, Luka's legs are under him, and he's looking real good in his shot. And then all of a sudden he followed that up with every shot was short against the Bulls. And so that's something they really do have to manage because they can't just play him into the ground like they did last year.
Well, and actually this goes pretty well segueing into the other thing I was going to say that seems a little discouraging, and that is I feel like we're still trying to figure out this log jam that they have with guards, right? And that how are they going to manage Jaden Hardy, getting him some playing time? Seth Curry has barely played. This is a guy who I'm just a big fan of in general because I love the way he fought to create, his opportunities and to build a career that he has like this. And he's a tremendous shooter. Shooters need to shoot in games to have rhythm, right? And he is getting such few minutes that when he's out there, and sometimes he plays out and he never even touches the ball. Yeah. So if those are the guys that you need to get more minutes to give Luka a break, there needs to be a little bit, they've got to figure that out a little bit. And we saw Jaden Hardy play more in the Bulls game and get a lot of credit for making big plays. And really kudos to him because he'd not played much at all. So to stay ready and stay mentally in the game in that situation. But I just don't know how that's going to play out. And if there's a good way to do that so that Luka maybe doesn't have to play 40 minutes a game.
Yeah, it's like we're excited about the depth, but yet the depth has not solved the Luka playing too much. Other guys haven't gotten enough time. We knew that logjam was going to be there with the Tim, Seth, Hardy thing. I did not expect the answer to be we're going to play Tim and neither of the other guys. Like I did not expect that to be the answer the kid came to. My last thing quickly is I'm discouraged by the lack of Omax playing time. It's part of the logjam, but I wish that he would have been a little bit more ready sooner. Derrick Jones Jr. has leaped out, like you said, so that has been a reason why we haven't seen anything from Omax yet. But that's one thing that I'm looking at. I'm not concerned yet, but I'm just a little discouraged by. I wish that he was ready sooner because he's another guy that I root for so hard because of how he is and like the how he speaks about the game and how he was coming in as a rookie and like ready to learn and be hungry. And it felt like him and Lively were like on the same level. And now Lively has completely overshadowed where he is. And I'm curious if he's going to play in the G League. Their first game is November 10th with the Legends. And so I'm curious if he's going to play anytime with them.
Well, and you just hope too that he's not going to take any of this and be deflated by it, because it was tough the way he kind of got built up early on, and with Jason Kidd saying, I'm gonna throw these guys into the starting lineup. I'm gonna see what they've got. Right, and all of a sudden we're going, oh, these are both potential starters in the NBA. Well, that puts a lot of expectations that when you don't live up to, it can feel, like you failed or you're not that kind of player after all, when that's not the case at all. I mean, truly, he needs time, and he is very raw. That was pretty clear to see in those preseason games. And, that's probably not ideal. You would have liked to have had somebody that you could use a little bit more, but I do hope that he is going to be able to stay mentally strong through all of it. Maybe G League wouldn't be a bad thing, because just get out there and play those games, right? There's for someone who needs that, because he is a little bit more on the raw side of things. You don't want to just sit on the bench.
Yeah, he needs the playing time, he needs the reps, and he needs the reps with the speed of the game. That was the thing that I saw in preseason, is that, the speed just seemed a little bit he seemed a little too fast and too rushed, which rookies do. And so he needs time with that speed and those guys. And he'll play with, if he goes to the Legends, they've got some vets there. Justin Jackson, with what Carlisle called the greatest floater in NBA history. They've got our guy Theo Pinson. They've got Tony Bradley's played some NBA games. I mean, they've got a bunch of vets down there. And so I'm curious if he does get some playing time. The other thing is that they took it really slow with Hardy too. I mean, remember, Hardy didn't play in the NBA not even at all until December or January. So I trust the Mavericks in their development, because I think they did well with Hardy. I think they've done well with Josh Green when this new group took over. Obviously, they've done well with Dereck Lively. Maybe Lively would have done well no matter what. But yeah, so those are some things we're encouraged and discouraged by. Let us know what you're encouraged by with Dereck Lively, what you've been impressed by so far. Let us know if you're going to the Rangers parade. I'm curious about that. We'll be back tomorrow. Mavs play the Nuggets. That's a big game because it's in-season tournament. They'll use the new court with the Nuggets, and so we'll see that. And
defending champs.
All that. Check back tomorrow, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.